The galaxy was wide and filled with many kinds of life, but few paid attention to the small blue world called Earth. For a long time, humans had watched the stars with hope and fear. They built machines that could travel to their moon and beyond. They dreamed of joining others among the stars, but when the truth came, the truth was not a welcome one. The Arkan Dominion came first, their ships huge like floating cities covered in black armor. They sent a signal across the solar system ordering Earth to submit. The message was simple. They said humans must give their world and resources to the Dominion, and in return they would be allowed to live under Dominion rule. The leaders of Earth gathered and argued for hours. Many thought they should negotiate. They said the Dominion was powerful and humans were not ready for war, but others refused. One of them was Captain Leah Brooks. She stood before the council calm and strong and said, "There is no reason to kneel to those who come to steal. What is ours?" The Dominion expected fear. They had done this to many worlds before, and every time the weak had surrendered. But Earth was not weak, even if it seemed so to others. For years, humans had been studying the signals from beyond their system. They had learned quietly and built in secret. They had made ships stronger than anything seen before, powered by engines no alien could understand. They called their new fleet the Terran Defense Fleet, but only a few knew it even existed. It was made, not for exploration, but for survival. When the Arkan Dominion sent a fleet of 30 warships toward the solar system, they believed victory was already theirs. Commander Naro led the fleet. He was proud and certain of his strength as the ships entered the edge of Sol space. He ordered a message to be sent demanding surrender once more. But before the message could leave his flagship, the screens flickered and the sensors went blind. His officers looked around confused. They tried to restart systems, but something was blocking them. A strange wave moved through their ships and jammed every signal. Then new dots appeared on their scanners, moving fast from the direction of Earth. At first, Naro thought they were small transports, but the images cleared, and he saw sleek, dark ships flying in perfect formation. They were not big like Dominion cruisers, but they moved with precision and confidence. The sight of them brought silence to his bridge. One of his officers said, "Those ships, they look human." Naro laughed and said, "Humans do not have ships like these. Prepare to fire." On Earth, Captain Leah Brooks stood aboard her command ship, the Horizon. Her crew waited for orders. She looked calm, but her heart was heavy. She knew this battle would decide more than just Earth's future. It would decide if humanity would be seen as prey or as equals. She gave her command, "Open the channel." The voice of the Dominion commander came through, arrogant and cold. He said, "Human, your planet now belongs to the Dominion. Kneel or die." Leah did not blink. She said, "You should turn back now, Commander. We do not negotiate with invaders." Then she cut the signal and said to her crew, "Begin." The Horizon fired first. The blast crossed the void faster than light and tore through the lead Dominion ship before it could raise shields. The explosion was bright and silent. A wave of debris scattered across space. Naro shouted for all ships to return. Fire beams of energy hit the Terran ships, but their shields held, firm, glowing bright for a moment, then fading. The humans did not stop. They moved like hunters. Every shot hit a target. Each Dominion ship that tried to move forward was destroyed in seconds. Naro watched his fleet fall apart. He could not believe what he saw. On the horizon, Lieutenant Aaron Wells called out, "Enemy formation breaking. They are trying to retreat." Leah said, "Keep pressure on them. No mercy for those who came to enslave us." The Terran ships pushed forward, their weapons precise, their engines burning white against the dark. They had trained for this moment for years. Every pilot, every gunner knew their role. They were not just fighting for a flag. They were fighting for every life on Earth. The Dominion ships fired again, desperate to survive, but their attacks could not even touch the human fleet. One by one, their ships exploded, leaving only silence behind. Naro tried to rally his men. He shouted, "We are the Dominion. We will not lose to primitives." But his words meant nothing. When his last cruiser was hit by a beam that cut through it from bow to stern, the ship broke apart and drifted lifeless. When the final explosion faded, the Horizon slowed to a halt. Captain Leah Brooks stood at the viewport, looking at the wreckage. Around them, pieces of alien metal glowing in the sunlight. She felt no joy, only a quiet understanding. She said softly, "They expected us to negotiate. They thought we were weak. They forgot what humans become when we are pushed. On Earth, the people watched through their screens and saw what had happened. The Terran fleet had destroyed a force that had conquered hundreds of worlds. News spread fast, every human city celebrated. But Leah knew celebration would not last long. The Dominion was vast. This fleet was only a small part of their power. Soon they would come again with more ships and greater fury. Humanity had won the first battle. But not the war. Leah turned to her crew. She said, "Send word to all stations. We begin defense phase 2. Her officers nodded silently. Everyone on that bridge knew what it meant. They would not rest. They would build more ships. They would strengthen their defenses. They would meet the next wave head-on. In the command center on Mars, engineers were already working on new drive cores. Scientists were calculating improvements to shield systems across the world. Humans were united in purpose like never before. There was no more talk of separate nations. There was only one banner and one goal: survival. The horizon moved back toward Earth. Leah thought about what the aliens must be thinking now, somewhere far away in the Dominion capital. News of this defeat would soon reach the Emperor, and when it did, he would learn that the small blue planet he thought to enslave had erased his fleet in less than an hour. She wondered what he would send next, but she did not feel fear, only readiness. The stars stretched endless ahead, and for the first time in human history they did not seem unreachable. They seemed open and waiting. Leah whispered to herself, "We are no longer alone, and we are no longer afraid." The horizon drifted quietly through space engines humming steady behind it. The wreckage of the Dominion fleet slowly turning in the black, the stars shining cold and distant, and the people of Earth watching together. Understanding that their world had changed forever, they had proven that humanity would not bow to any empire, and that those who came to conquer would instead learn what it meant to face the finest fleet humanity had ever built. The days after the battle were filled with silence across the stars. The wreckage of the Dominion fleet still floated near the edge of the solar system, drifting slowly through the void. The Terran fleet kept watch scanners active and ready for any new sign of movement on Earth. People began to rebuild and celebrate. But Captain Leah Brooks and her crew did not rest. She knew this was only the first wave of what was coming. The Dominion would not accept this defeat quietly. In the Dominion capital, the Emperor sat in his throne chamber listening as the last surviving message from Commander Naro played. The sound was full of static and panic. His words cut off before the signal ended. The chamber was silent when it finished. One of the royal advisors stepped forward and said, "Your Majesty, it seems the human fleet destroyed all 30 ships." The Emperor narrowed his dark eyes and said, "Impossible. The humans are primitive. They should not have been able to harm even one of our ships." The advisor swallowed nervously and said, "Yet the evidence shows the fleet was wiped out completely." The Emperor rose from his throne, his cloak dragging across the floor. He said, "Send word to High Command. I want a full report on this human technology, and I want a second fleet prepared, 1,000 ships if needed. They will learn what it means to defy the Dominion." The order spread quickly through the vast empire, back on Earth. Leah stood in the command room of the horizon, her face calm, but her mind full of worry. She looked at the reports from the edge of the system showing no enemy movement. For now, the crew worked quietly around her. Lieutenant Aaron Wells approached with a data pad and said, "All ships report ready status. The engineers have improved the reactors." Leah nodded and said, "Good, we will need every advantage when they come again." On Mars, a large shipyard was alive with activity. Thousands of workers built new ships faster than ever before. Every human nation sent their best engineers and scientists to help. The Terran fleet was no longer a secret. It was the shield of humanity. The designs were simple, but strong. Each new ship built from the wreckage of the Dominion fleet, their metal melted and reforged into human steel. What once belonged to the invaders now became part of Earth's defense. In the far reaches of space, the Dominion's second fleet began to gather. Admiral Korvek, a veteran of many wars, was placed in command. He studied the data recovered from the first battle, his expression dark. He spoke to his officers. "These humans are dangerous more than they appear. We will crush them with full force and erase their world from the map." His ships assembled like a storm, clouds of metal stretching across. The stars' months passed as both sides prepared. Humanity grew stronger. They built new outposts on the Moon and Mars and trained more pilots. Every person who saw the footage of the first battle wanted to join the fleet. They no longer feared the unknown. They had seen what humans could do. Leah walked through the hangar of the Horizon, looking at the young pilots ready for war. She stopped beside one of them, a young man named Carter who was checking his fighter controls. He looked up and said, "Captain, do you think they will come soon?" Leah said, "Yes, they will come, and when they do, we will be ready." The call came sooner than expected. Sensors on the edge of the system detected a large fleet entering through the jump corridor. The signal was strong, hundreds of Dominion ships approaching fast. Leah ordered all stations to alert status. The Horizon and its sister ships, Liberty and Dawnfire, moved into formation. The human fleet was now larger than before, 50 warships and hundreds of smaller escorts, all armed and ready across the planets. People watched the skies, holding their breath. When the Dominion fleet arrived, Admiral Korvac sent his message to Earth. It was short and full of arrogance. He said, "Humans, you have one chance. Surrender and we will let your world live." Leah received the transmission, but she did not answer. Instead, she gave the order, "All ships lock weapons." The Dominion expected negotiation. They waited for words, but none came. What came instead was light. The Terran fleet fired as one. The space between the fleets lit up with streaks of energy, faster and brighter than before. The Dominion ships tried to raise shields, but human weapons tore through them like paper. Their new cannons used energy frequencies. The confused Dominion defense grids, one by one, their ships exploded. Korvac shouted for his fleet to scatter, but the human formation held firm, moving together with perfect timing. Inside the Horizon, the crew worked with calm focus. Leah gave short orders: adjust formation, Delta 4 target their carriers. Lieutenant Wells tracked enemy positions and directed fire. Every move was calculated. The Dominion fleet tried to flank from both sides, but human ships turned and countered before they could close the distance. Plasma beams cut across the dark, tearing through cruisers and battleships. Korvac watched in disbelief. His fleet of hundreds was breaking. He slammed his fist against the console and shouted, "They are only one world. How can they fight like this?" His officer replied, "Their ships move as if they know our next move, sir. Their system is unpredictable." Korvac screamed, "Fire all weapons." Now the Dominion unleashed a massive barrage, but the human shields held, glowing bright like suns before dimming again. After hours of fighting, the space around them was full of burning wrecks. Korvac realized his defeat was certain. He tried to order retreat, but his command ships lost contact, one after another, destroyed by precision strikes. The Horizon moved forward toward his flagship. Leah said, "Open channel." She appeared on his screen, her face cold and steady. She said, "You came to enslave us again and again. You fail. Tell your Emperor, Earth does not bow." Korvac stared at her. Then the connection cut as a final beam hit his ship. The flagship exploded and the battle was over. When the dust settled, the Terran fleet remained standing, though some ships were damaged. Most were still functional. Leah stood by the window of the bridge. Looking at the quiet stars, she said softly again, "They came expecting words, and again they met our strength." On Earth, celebrations began once more. But Leah knew that this war was not only about survival anymore. It was about respect. Humanity had shown the galaxy that they were not prey, they were equals, maybe even more. She looked at her crew, proud of them, but inside she knew the next move would not be easy, because now every empire in the galaxy would know what humans had done, and they would either fear them or try to destroy them. The engineers continued their work, building more ships faster than ever before. Scientists studied the remains of Dominion technology, searching for secrets to make their defenses even stronger. Humanity had stepped fully into the stars now, and there was no turning back. Leah sent one final message to all human colonies. She said, "We do not fight for conquest. We fight for freedom, for our right to exist, and for every world that will come after us." The message spread across the solar system and beyond, carried on the waves of light through the deep black of space. It was a message every human understood. The stars shone quietly around them, and the Horizon drifted forward, leading the fleet back. Toward Earth, its hull scarred but strong behind it, trailed the fire and smoke of fallen enemies, a reminder that those who came to conquer would always face the unyielding will of humanity. The stars were quiet after the second battle, but everyone on Earth knew the silence would not last. The Dominion had lost twice, and an empire that ruled hundreds of worlds would never stop until they took revenge. Captain Leah Brooks and her crew stayed aboard the Horizon, every system on the ship being checked and upgraded again and again. The shipyards on Mars and the Moon never slept. New ships were being built faster than ever. People across Earth worked together like one great machine. No borders, no rival nations, only the same goal: survive. In the Dominion capital, the Emperor stood before the Council of War, his voice cold like metal as he said twice, "We have sent fleets twice, they have been destroyed by these humans." He looked down at his generals and said, "Tell me how this can happen." Admiral Voran stepped forward and said, "Your Majesty, the humans have technology beyond what our scanners understand. They move faster, they strike harder, they coordinate with perfect unity. It is as if they think together." The Emperor's hand tightened on the arm of his throne. "Then we will think smarter," he said. "Prepare the Grand Armada call. Every world in our reach. I want a force so large that no fleet in the galaxy can stand against. We will burn their world to ashes." Orders spread across the Dominion. Thousands of ships began to move, gathering in secret points across the stars. Their plan was to arrive from multiple directions at once, cutting Earth off from every escape. Admiral Voran knew the risk, but he obeyed. He did not question the Emperor's will in his mind. The humans were dangerous, but still only one species. He believed that numbers would be their victory. On Earth, the Terran fleet had also changed. Since the second battle, they had grown larger, more advanced, their ships now equipped with improved shield cores and new plasma reactors. Scientists had learned from every piece of Dominion wreckage and turned it into human technology. Leah watched the construction of the new dreadnought called the Victory. It was twice the size of the Horizon and built from a new metal alloy that could withstand any known energy weapon. She walked through its corridors, watching the engineers work. Every face showed focus and quiet pride. Lieutenant Aaron Wells met her near the main control deck and handed her a report. He said, "We have confirmed energy spikes near the edge of the system." Leah read it and said, "Then they are coming sooner than we hoped." She looked out the window where the sun shone faintly through the thick glass and added, "Tell all ships to prepare for contact." The alarm spread quickly through the fleet. Ships moved into position near Mars and Earth, ready to fight again. Civilians were moved to underground shelters. Communication lines buzzed with short, calm messages. Every pilot, every gunner, every engineer knew what to do. There was fear, but there was also confidence. They had done this before, and they would do it again. Then, the scanners began to flash hundreds. Then thousands of signals appeared from all directions. The Dominion Grand Armada had arrived. It was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Massive carriers, destroyers, dreadnoughts filling the black of space, like a metal storm. Admiral Voran stood on his bridge, smiling at the sight. He said to his officers, "The Emperor will be pleased. We will erase them from existence." Leah stood at her command console, watching the readings pour in, her face still calm, but her eyes sharp. She said, "This is it. This is the storm we have waited for." She turned to Wells and said, "Send to all captains. Fight smart. Fight together. No ship fights alone." The message spread across the Terran network. The first shots came from the Dominion lines, waves of energy striking forward like fire raining through the void. But the human shields held bright blue light, rippled across the fleet and faded. The Horizon returned fire. The Victory followed, and the Liberty, and the Dawnfire. Two beams of light crossed space, cutting through enemy ranks. Explosions flashed across the darkness. But there were too many Dominion ships to count. They moved closer, firing without pause. The human fleet split into groups, attacking from different angles, their formations tight and deliberate. The Dominion expected chaos but found precision instead. Smaller human ships weaved between the giant enemy cruisers, dropping mines that exploded with silent brilliance, tearing holes through armor. One Dominion destroyer tried to ram a Terran frigate, but the human pilot spun away and countered with a single strike that shattered the enemy vessel. In 2 hours passed, and the battle filled the system from Mars orbit to the edge of Jupiter. The stars were hidden behind fire and wreckage. The Terran ships were outnumbered 10-1, but they fought with a unity that even the Dominion could not break. Leah gave her orders one by one, her voice steady, never raised. never shaken. Wells kept track of every ship, calling out damage reports, sending reinforcements where needed. The Dominion admiral watched in growing disbelief. He had never seen a fleet fight this way. Their losses kept rising, their ships vanishing faster than they could count. He shouted for all forces to concentrate fire on the victory, believing that destroying the largest human ship would break their spirit. Dozens of Dominion cruisers turned and unleashed everything they had. The victory took the hits, its shields, flashing like a dying sun, but it did not fall. It pushed forward and returned fire, its massive cannons burning holes through enemy lines. On the horizon, Leah watched the feed from the Victory's bridge. The captain of that ship, a quiet woman named Nora, called over the comm, "We are holding, but we will not last forever." Leah said, "Hold as long as you can, we will cover you." The horizon moved in beside the Victory, firing non-stop, protecting its flank. Dominion ships tried to surround them but were met by a wave of human fighters cutting through their ranks like arrows of light. After what felt like forever, the tide began to shift. Dominion ships started to retreat, their formation breaking again. Leah saw it and gave the command, "Push forward. Do not let them regroup." Wells smiled for the first time since the battle began. The Terran fleet surged ahead, chasing the retreating enemy. The sky lit with the glow of destroyed ships, the once endless Dominion armada turning into debris scattered through the dark. At last, Admiral Varan realized the battle was lost, his ship burning and systems failing. He looked out at the human fleet and whispered, "Impossible." Then his flagship was hit by a final beam from the Victory and exploded in silence when the last enemy signal vanished. Leah stood looking at the screen, her face calm. She said, "It is over for now, but not forever." She knew the Dominion still existed far away and would never stop until one side was gone. On Earth, people watched the final transmissions, tears in their eyes, pride in their hearts. Humanity had done what no other species had ever done. They had faced the greatest empire of the galaxy and lived. They had done more than live, they had won. But in her heart, Leah felt no peace. She knew what would come next. The Dominion would not surrender. They would grow more desperate, more cruel, and the battles would only grow larger. Still, she looked out into the stars and said softly, "Then we will grow stronger too, because we are human and we never stop." The horizon drifted through the quiet wreckage engines, glowing faint blue around it. The stars shone once more, cold and endless. But they no longer looked distant. They looked like a path waiting to be walked. Humanity had found its place among them, not as servants, not as prey, but as fighters who would write their own story in the light of battle. The war between Earth and the Dominion had changed the galaxy forever. The stars that once ignored the blue planet now watched it in fear and curiosity. The Terran fleet had defeated 3 massive invasions, and the news had spread faster than light. Every empire, every free world, every hidden colony had heard the story of the humans who fought back. Captain Leah Brooks stood at the main window of the horizon, looking at the distant line of Jupiter, its clouds turning slowly in the sunlight. She felt both proud and tired. Her ship had survived another battle, but she knew peace was still far away. On Mars, the shipyards worked day and night, new ships leaving the docks every week, engineers improving engines and weapons. With each design, the human fleet was becoming not just strong, but legendary. Leah had been asked to lead a mission beyond the solar system, to find out what the Dominion was planning. The Council on Earth wanted to strike before the next wave came. And so she agreed, though she knew it meant facing danger beyond anything before. The Horizon and 6 other ships left orbit, their engines glowing white as they passed Neptune and entered the dark beyond human space. It was quiet. There, no radio signals, no colonies, only the stars and the endless black. They traveled for days until they reached a sector full of strange energy readings. The scanners showed wreckage floating through the void, the remains of old battles from species unknown. Leah ordered a closer scan. Maybe they could find technology or data to help them. As they approached the wrecks, the crew noticed something strange. The metal fragments showed signs of weapons far stronger than even the Dominion used. Lieutenant Aaron Wells said, "This does not look like their work." Captain Leah nodded and said, "Maybe someone else fought them here long ago before us." The ship drifted between broken hulls and shattered towers of metal, silent as tombs. Then the sensors beeped, new contacts fast approaching. 3. Unknown ships appeared from behind the debris, sleek silver shapes without markings, their engines glowing a soft blue. Leah gave the command shields up, but hold fire. The ship stopped a short distance away, then a voice came through the radio clear. And calm humans, you are far from home, Leah replied. This is Captain Brooks of the Terran fleet. Identify yourselves, the voice answered. We are the Arindra. We watched your battles against the Dominion. You fight well, and you fight for survival. We do not wish to harm you. The Arindra ships moved closer. Their design was unlike anything human eyes had seen. Smooth curves, no visible weapons. Leah said, What do you want? The voice said, We have seen what you did. The Dominion has ruled for centuries, crushing world after world, but you defeated them. You are dangerous to them and maybe also to us. Leah said, We only fight to live, not to conquer. The Arindra voice paused, then said, Perhaps. But every empire began with those same words we offer you. Advice: stay in your system. If you go further, the Dominion will no longer be your only enemy. Then the signal ended and the ships vanished into light. The crew was silent for a long moment. Leah turned to Wells and said, Record everything and send it to Earth. Maybe they will understand who these Arindra are. The Horizon changed course and returned toward home, but the words of the stranger stayed in her mind. She knew they had seen only one corner of a much larger galaxy. Meanwhile, far away, in the Dominion capital, chaos spread across the Empire. Fleets destroyed colonies and revolt commanders questioning orders. The Emperor sat alone in his chamber, staring at maps of lost systems. He whispered, How can one small world cause this? His advisors argued that the Empire should stop attacking and regroup, but the Emperor refused. He said, If we fall to humans, then we deserve to vanish. Send our strongest fleet not to Earth, but to their allies. Find anyone who speaks with them and destroy them. The Dominion began to strike smaller worlds, hoping to isolate Earth from help. Back on Earth, the Council met to discuss the next move. Some members wanted to fortify the system forever, turning Sol into a fortress. Others wanted to explore and seek allies among the stars. Leah stood before them through a hollow connection and said, Hiding will not save us. They will come again, and if we wait, they will come stronger. We must take the fight to them. One of the leaders said, Do you think we can win? Leah said, We already have 3 times. We just need to believe again. The Council agreed. After long debate, the Terran fleet would go beyond the solar system and establish outposts, new bases to watch the stars. Humanity would not hide any longer. They would learn the galaxy and defend it. The Horizon and the Victory were chosen to lead the mission. 1,000 men and women, ready to leave everything they knew behind. Leah looked at her crew before departure, every face young and determined. She said to them, We go not for war but for knowledge. Yet if war finds us again, we will answer. The fleet jumped into deep space, the stars around them stretching into lines of light, the void ahead endless. They moved through regions no human had ever seen, fields of ice and dust, glowing clouds of gas, and worlds untouched by life in each place. They left small probes and beacons marking the path for those who would follow. After weeks, they found something unexpected. A planet with signs of ruins, tall towers buried under sand, strange carvings of unknown creatures. The scanners showed faint power readings. Leah ordered a landing team. She and Wells went down with a small crew. The air thin but breathable, the sand pale under a dim sun. They entered one of the ruined hall's walls covered in writing. They could not read. Wells said, Who built this? Leah ran her hand across a stone tablet and said, Maybe the ones who fought the Dominion before us. Inside the ruins, they found a chamber with a single working device, a round core humming with light. The scientists said it was some kind of memory unit. They brought it aboard the Horizon and tried to decode it. Days passed before they finally opened the data. What they saw made everyone silent. It was a record showing the rise of the Dominion, and before them an older race called the Kareth. They had fought the Dominion long ago and lost completely. Their last message said to whoever finds this, Remember, they cannot be reasoned with. Only destroyed. Leah watched the recording and said softly, Then we know what we must do now. The crew around her silent, understanding the meaning. They were not only fighting for Earth, but for all those who had fallen before them. She looked at the stars ahead and said, Prepare the report for Earth. Tell them the truth. The Dominion must end. The horizon turned its course toward home, engines burning bright against the dark as it moved through the emptiness. Leah stood at the window. The words of the Arindra still in her head. She wondered if they too had fought and lost, or if they feared humans might become what the Dominion once was. But for now she had no answers. Only duty, and the long road back through the cold and quiet sea of stars. The Horizon returned to Earth after months in deep space. The crew was tired, but their mission had changed everything. The data from the ruins proved that the Dominion had destroyed other civilizations before humanity even existed. It showed the cycle of war and conquest that had repeated across the galaxy. Leah Brooks gave the report to the Earth Council, who listened in silence. When she finished, one of them said, "So they cannot be reasoned with." Leah said, "No, they only understand power. We must end them, or they will return stronger." Every time the Council voted in secret, and then gave her the final order. Humanity would no longer wait for war to come. They would take the fight to the Dominion. The shipyards began to work faster than ever before, giant carriers rising from the oceans of Earth. New engines tested on the moons of Jupiter, fleets built in orbit around Mars. The finest minds of humanity joined together to create weapons and systems beyond anything before Leah watched. The new ships being completed, each one named after the cities and oceans of Earth. She knew they would soon carry the hopes of every person alive. The fleet was now not only a defense but a promise to never kneel again. Months passed, and the day came when the Terran Battlefleet gathered near Saturn. Thousands of ships lined in formation, from tiny scouts to massive dreadnoughts, their engines glowing bright like stars. The Horizon stood at the center beside the flagship Resolute. Admiral Carter, the commander of the entire operation, gave the order to begin the final campaign. His voice calm and steady across all channels. "Humanity, we did not ask for this war, but we will end it. Once and for all." The fleet jumped together. The stars turned white and the void swallowed them. They appeared near the Dominion border in a region full of ancient wrecks and broken worlds. The scanners showed dozens of enemy fleets moving to intercept them. Leah stood on the bridge, watching the enemy shapes grow on the screen. The Dominion had brought everything they had: battleships, cruisers, carriers, all to stop one world's defiance. "Well said, they think we will break." Leah smiled and said, "Then let us show them what humans do when pushed." Too far, the first shots came, bright streaks of light cutting through the dark. The Horizon shook as shields flared, but they held, and the fleet answered, every ship opening fire as one. The battle raged for hours, beams and missiles crossing the void. The Dominion tried to surround them, but the humans fought with speed and precision. Their ships moved like dancers through the chaos. The Horizon targeted enemy command ships one by one, breaking their coordination. Admiral Carter's orders were, "Clear, strike fast, strike hard, and never stop." They advanced deeper into enemy space, every explosion lighting the dark like a storm of suns. The Dominion fleet began to fall apart, their commanders shouting in confusion as human weapons tore through their ranks on the surface of one Dominion world. The people looked up and saw the sky burn. Their leaders told them the humans were monsters. But what they saw were soldiers fighting with purpose, not cruelty. Leah's voice carried through open channels, telling them, "We do not come to destroy your people. We come to end those who rule through fear. Surrender and you will live." Some planets obeyed, others fought to the last, but the advance never stopped. The Dominion Emperor sat in his chamber watching the reports, every fleet gone, every system falling. His pride turned to rage. He sent a final message to the humans: "I will not bow to creatures of dirt." Leah heard his words and answered, "We never asked you to bow. We asked you to stop enslaving others. You chose war, remember?" That when you fade the next day, the Terran fleet reached the capital world of the Dominion, a massive planet surrounded by rings of defense satellites and fortresses. The battle there was the largest the galaxy had ever seen. Leah stood on the bridge as the Horizon charged through enemy fire, her crew silent and focused, missiles streaking past close enough to shake the hull. She could feel her heart pounding. She thought of Earth, of the oceans and skies she might never see again. And then she gave the final order: fire the main weapon. The ship's beam cut through the darkness straight toward the heart of the Dominion command tower. The explosion that followed was seen from orbit. The Emperor and his fortress vanished. In light, when the dust cleared, the Dominion fleet began to surrender one by one. The war was over. The humans had done what no other race had ever dared. They had destroyed the greatest empire in the stars. The message spread across every world. The Dominion is gone. Earth is free. The fleet stood silent among the wreckage, their ships damaged but still standing. Leah looked at the stars and whispered softly, "We did it." Wells beside her said, "What now?" She said, "Now we rebuild and make sure this never happens again." Months later, peace began to take shape. Worlds once enslaved by the Dominion joined the new alliance led by Earth. The Terran fleet helped restore what was broken, building stations and cities where war once burned. Leah and her crew became legends, but she never cared for glory. She often sat alone by the window of her ship watching the stars. She knew the galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but also of hope. One day perhaps the Arindra would return, or another empire would rise, yet she also knew that humanity would never again be the small, quiet world it once was. They had stepped into the stars and proven themselves. One night, while Horizon drifted above a quiet blue planet, Leah spoke to her crew. "We came from a world that others ignored, and we faced powers that thought we would kneel, but look where we stand now. We are not conquerors, we are survivors, we are explorers. And if the stars ever forget our name, they will remember the fire that came from Earth." Her words echoed through the halls of the ship and through the hearts of her people. They knew their journey had only begun. In the years that followed, new fleets were built not for war but for exploration. Humans reached worlds no one had ever seen, some with life, some with only silence. They met new allies and learned from them. The memory of the war stayed, but it became a lesson, not a wound. The stories of the Terran Battlefleet were told on every world, songs written, statues raised, and children grew up dreaming of the stars. Humanity had become more than anyone expected, not because of conquest, but because they had fought for freedom and survived. Leah grew older, but remained in command until her last voyage. She died peacefully on the bridge of the Horizon as it drifted through the calm light of a distant nebula. Her crew buried her in space, her name engraved on the hull near the captain's chair. They whispered a simple line: "She took us to the stars and brought us home." The Horizon continued its mission with a new captain, but the spirit of its first leader lived on in every course they set and every star they reached. Far across the galaxy, where the ruins of the Dominion still stood, a small light flickered on an old beacon, repeating a message in an ancient tongue warning that power always returns. But this time the galaxy would be ready for it, because the humans were watching the stars never slept again under silence. Earth had changed everything forever.